Okay, graph the function and identify the range. It's supposed to have a y equals in front of that. The copy machine cut it off. Okay. Alright, now this function has x to the second, so it makes a u. So we know how to set up u's. There are three coordinates that we need. This being the most important, the vertex. Now what formation is this in? Well, it's either X, ABC, AHK, or APQ. Those are your three formations that a parabola or a quadratic equation can be in. So you have X second, this is ABC. Okay. So the way to get your vertex is by taking the opposite of our B and dividing it by 2 times our A. So the opposite of B is positive 24. And A is 4, so it'd be 4, 2 times 4 is 8. So I take 24 divided by 8, and that would be 3. Then I go up 1 and down 1. Then I plug those into the expression. So you have 4, and then parentheses 4 to the second, minus 24, and then 4 plus 3. That's negative 29. Now click up. Now instead of 4 we want 3. It doesn't matter what you do first. Okay. Negative 33. Then I put 2 in. Now this might look odd, but I know I did it right because I'm back to negative 29. Okay, so we have to go to 1, 2, 3, 4. On the x, and on the y's we have to go by 5s. So negative 5, negative 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and that's good. So I go to 4, negative 29. Okay. I go to 3, negative 33. Go to 2, back to negative 29. Okay. So this does have a range. You just label your vertex. 3, negative 33. So you take your y and put it with its value, negative 33, and it's going up, so it'd be greater than or equal. Okay. Okay, next one. Y equals negative 3 times the parentheses x plus 4 to the second, and then plus 5. Okay. Alright, so we definitely have x to the second, so that's a u. So again, same setup, but it's not an ABC anymore. This, and then that's a vertex point. This formation, okay, is AHK. Okay, the middle is easy to find. It's just taking the opposite of the H, okay? Not dividing it by anything. So it'd be negative 4. Then up 1, negative 3, negative 5. Yeah, these mix around. It's no big deal. So I take my negative 3, and first I'm going to put negative 3 in for x plus 4, and then to the second power, and then plus 5. So I come up with 2. Now I want negative 4 in its place, so I keep the negative sign, and I'm going to get 5 because it's always the k. And then I put 5 in, it should be back to 2, which it is. Okay. So x, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and then negative 4, negative 5, and then I got to go to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So negative 3, 2, negative 4, 5, and then negative 5, 2. Okay, so you label your vertex. So negative 4, 5. So you put your y with the 5, and from there it drops down, so it'll be less than or equal to. Okay, number 3, we have y equals 2 times the parentheses x plus 1 times the parentheses x minus 4. Now it's x times x, which is x second, so it makes a u. Don't multiply it out though. Okay, it's just you deal with it in a different formation. Okay, this is the vertex. Now this is in A, P, and Q form. So now remember how APQ works. You find the opposite of P here, opposite of Q, then you add these two together and divide by 2. So opposite of P here, opposite of Q here. So it'd be -1, +4. Then you add and divide by 2. So you take -1 plus 4, that's 3. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. That's fine, that I got a decimal. It's all right. Okay. All right, now start with the negative. You're going to have to clear it when you do the decimal. So -1 plus 1, and then -1 minus 4. Whoops, I didn't do that right. Okay, I got 0, as always. And I think we know by now that the P's and Q's always give you 0. So now put 1.5 in. You have to clear it, though. 1.5 plus 1, 1.5 minus 4. -12.5. And then if I put 4 in, I'd have to clear it, but it's going to be 0, okay? So 4 plus 1, because that's 2 times 5, but then times 0 gives you 0. Okay, so I got to get to -1 this way, then I got to go into the sneak over into the positives, and -12.5 you're going to need to go by 2's. Okay, so -1, 0. 1.5, and then -12.5 is down there. And then 4, 0. Okay, so label your vertex, please. 1.5, -12.5. So then you take your y value with -12.5, and it goes up, so it's greater than or equal to. Okay, y equals 3x plus 2. Now there's no second power. That's a linear equation. No second power, it's a line. Get the y by itself if it's not already. Looks to me like it already is. So then you got your m and b, and you apply the slope y-intercept. Slope 3 over 1 plus 2 is the y-intercept. Okay, then up 3 over 1. Arrows on both ends. Okay, now we're solving equations. Now it's important to know whether you have to use the factoring properties here or the linear properties. And you tell that right away, knowing that 3x to the second minus 60 equals 87. So there's 2 answers, we know this. We have x second, there's no x with it. There's no x to the first. So when that's all I have, then that's linear properties followed up with a square root. So in linear properties, there can only be a single x term. There is, okay, x, this is the only x I see. Get the variable by itself, okay, so you got times and minus. Get rid of your minus with adding. So 87 plus 60 is 147. And you get rid of the times 3 with the divide by 3, and that's 49. So x to the second power equals 49. Now, you do need to do the square root. Remember, that could be the positive or negative. So the square root of 49 is 7. So those linear properties does not take a long time to do. Okay, number 6, 4x to the second power plus 16x equals 0. So there's 2 answers. You have x to the second and you have x to the first. So you're not using linear properties, you're using your factoring properties. So anytime I have x to different powers, we're going factoring properties. Okay, you make sure you're at your 0, you are. And we have 2 terms, so it's a binomial, it'd be GCF DOPS. So you have x at the end, you don't have the negative in front, then 4 and 16 are both divisible by 4. So you go up and divide by 4x. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. X second divided by x. You can still have x. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then x divided by x is just a complete cancellation. So you bring over your 4x. You cross it out. Okay, get rid of that 1. And when you have a plus sign right away, you know that's a no. So you bring over your x plus 4, and now you solve it. Okay, those are your two factors in simplest form. So 4x equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. So divide by 4, you get 0. Minus 4, you get negative 4. Okay. X to the second power minus 12x plus 27 equals 0. So the variable I have to solve for is to the second power, but it's also in there to the first power. So you are factoring properties that. Okay, so the zero's there, you're set. So you have 3 terms now, so it'd be GCF table. Don't put QF until if you're still wide of the mark, okay? So no x, no negative, it's just 1. 1 times 27 is 27, positive, okay? So that's a match. You have to add the negative 12. So you start dividing. 27 divided by 1 is 27. That's negative 28. 27 divided by 2 is a decimal. Now skip that, go to 3. 3 and 9. Negative 12, that's it. Now the a is 1x to the second. Okay. So you put negative 3, negative 9, and the x second you always write as x times itself. And then I apply the 1 in front. Now those really can't be, those are only in the row 1. You can divide by 1 if you want, but it's going to stay the same. So you take the 1 off and you have the expression x minus 3. Same thing going on there. Those are only in the 1 row, so x minus 9. So F1, F2. X minus 3 could equal 0. X minus 9 could equal 0. So you plus 3 and you get 3. Then you plus 9. 0 plus 9 is 9. 3 and 9. Okay, number 8. 12x to the second power minus 11x plus 2 equals 0. So there's 2 answers. You have x to the second with x, so you're applying your factoring properties. Okay, so the zero's there. So you have 3 terms again, so you're going to set it up the same way you're doing up there, GCF and the table. There's no x, there's no negative. 12, 11, and 2 is just in the first row. 12 times 2 is 24. This is positive, okay? So it's a match. And you're adding to negative 11. 124, add those, you get negative 25. You're too wide. 24 divided by 2 is 12. You add those, that's negative 14. You're still too wide, but you're close. 24 divided by 3 is 8. That's negative 11, and that's right on the money. Now, guys, quit putting 1x every time. Pay attention. A is 12. It is not 1, okay? So you know that you're going to break, you know that x seconds, x times itself. Now, place the 12 in front of your x's, and then simplify it. 12 and 3 are both in the third row, so I expect that divided by 3, 4x minus 1. 12 and 8. They're both in the 4 row, so I expect that divided by 4. So 3x minus 2. And I expect that to be divided down, if possible. See, the numbers in front of the x's when you times them should be the a. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 1 ain't 12. Okay, so 4x minus 1 could equal 0. 3x minus 2 could equal 0. So you plus 1, you get 1. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25, which you can put, or you can go second PRB and write 1/4 or 0.25, I don't care. But on this one, 3 times x equals 2. Then when I divide by 3, 2 divided by 3, I don't want that. Go second PRB, 2/3. I want the answers written as rational things if I can. Okay, easy one here. Negative 4x minus 3 equals 17. You don't have x to the second, so there's not two answers. It's just x to the first. So you are applying your linear properties. But you're not doing the square root because the x is not to the second. So make sure there's only a single x. There is. Get the variable by itself. So you got times and minus. So that's 20. 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. No square root. Okay. Okay, number 10, 5x to the second power plus 1x minus 9 equals 0. So there are two answers. You have x to the second. You've also got x to the first, so you are factoring. Okay. Properties. So equals 0, you bet. 3 terms GCF table. There's no x, no negative, it's 1, okay? ABC, 5 times negative 9 is negative 45, so this is a mismatch. Positive, negative, it's got to add to positive 1, okay? 45 divided by 1 is 45, okay? That's negative 44, too wide. 45 divided by 2 is a decimal. 45 divided by 3 is 15. Add those, it's negative 12. You're still too wide. 45 divided by 4 is a decimal. 45 divided by 5 is 9. Add those, you're at negative 4. Still too wide. Decimal. 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 And I'm not going to do 9 because I already have 9 on this table. Okay, so that's QF. If you divide by a number that's already on the other side of the table, you're wasting time. Okay, you're on a goose chase. So positive, negative, opposite of B, plus or minus, the square root, B squared minus 4AC, B squared minus 4AC over 2A, over 2A. So opposite of positive 1 is negative 1, and then B is 1, A is 5, and C is negative 9, and then A is 5. Okay, so you got negative 1, 2 times 5 is 10, then you make your square root, and you evaluate the inside to figure out what we're going to exactly be taking the square root of. Okay, I got 181, and the square root of 181 is 13.45. Okay, so I take negative 1 plus 13.45 equals, divide by 10, 1.25. Then you take negative 1 minus 13.45, divide by 10, negative 1.45. Okay. x to the third minus 9x to the second minus 4x minus 36 equals 0. Now we have x to the third, so that's 3 answers. You have x to the third, you also have x second and x, so you got all these different x's. That's obviously a factoring properties problem, okay? So, check that. And now you have 4 terms, so that's quadnomial grouping, and then you check one of the parentheses for DOPS. Okay, then little parentheses, tall parentheses, and then this one you have to check if it's a difference of perfect squares. Okay, so grouping. I do not see x at the end. I do not see the negative in the front, or what am I talking about? 1x third. We're not doing GCF here. We will, but it'll be with 2 of them at a time. So we have x at the end. It's to the second. You got to get x to the second out of there. No negative, 1. No x, there is a negative, and then 4 and 36 is going to be 4. So you divide by 1x second here, and you divide by the negative 4 here. So it's going to be 1x third x second. That would just be x. Negative 9, and then the x is here. There's no remainder, so they just cancel. Okay, and that's going to be... Okay, I did something wrong here. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I need to make that a plus 36. Just make it plus. I screwed that up. I apologize. So it's 1x. 36 divided by negative 4 is negative 9. Now that's good. Okay, that's my mess up. Okay, so GCF, you bring out your 1x minus 9, and then you put your 1x to the second power with your negative 4. So this guy here, you take the 1 off and just put him as x minus 9. No, that is not a DOPS because x is not to the second. But here you take your 1 off and you see x the second's x times itself, and 4 is 2 times 2. So it's x, 2, 2. So F1, F2, F3. X minus 9 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. So you add your 9 and you get 9, minus your 2 and you get negative 2, then you plus your 2 and you get positive 2. Okay, now we get into the parentheses. 3 parentheses times parentheses x minus 4 to the second equals 18. Now there's 2 answers here, but you can't distribute because the second power blocks you from being able to distribute, okay? So you bring in h, and the x minus 4 returns over here. So you got h, it's going to be multiplied by 3, it's going to be to a second power equals 18. And then you solve for the h using linear properties followed by the square root. So you just don't have to add or subtract, you just go divide, that's 6, square root. So h could be positive or negative, then I find the square root of 6, 2.45. So don't put those over here, you bring them over here, positive and negative, because you got to solve for x still. Then you plus 4, and that's 6.45. Then you plus 4, and then negative 2.45 plus 4 is 1.55. Okay, number 13, 4 times x minus 3 equals 18. This would be one answer, so there's no block. You go ahead and distribute, okay? So it's 4x, and 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 equals 18. So linear properties from there. You're not going to do the square root though, because you don't have a second power. 18 plus 12 is going to be 30. Then divide by 4, and that's 7.5. Okay, time to do some story problems. An online music store sells about 4,000 songs each day when it charges $1 per song. For each 5-cent increase in price, about 80 fewer songs per day are sold. Find how many changes in price would occur before the store can reach its maximum revenue. Well, what's the maximum revenue? So it's down there. Maximum, you're finding the vertex. Okay, now on a story problem, we want to take the opposite of B and divide it by 2 times A. That finds our x, but you need an equation. So we know that these are x second, followed by an x, followed by a constant equals y. Now, we can't just throw in gravity. Gravity is not happening here, okay? Instead, put that as revenue. So how do you find revenue? Well, you take the money you're charging times the number of items you're selling, okay? Now, to know how that's filled out, you need to make a little table. Money and items. So we know that the money starts at $1. And then with it, the items start at 4,000, but then we take action. 5-cent increase, so we're adding 0.05 to the money, and then the items, you're going to minus 80. Okay, so 1 plus 0.05, that's 1.05. And then 4,000 minus 80 is 3,920. Then you add 0.05, that's 1.1 or 1.10, it doesn't really matter. 3,920 minus 80 is 3,840. Okay, and then that goes on, but what it accomplishes is I know now what I'm going to put here. So $1 goes with 4,000. Or $1 starts here, 4,000 here, put the starting amounts. Then you're adding 0.05 over and over, so that's x. And then I'm minusing 80 over and over, so that's x. Okay, now to get from here to here, you got to execute the FOIL method. So you take your 1, you take 1 times 4,000, 1 times negative 80x, that's done. 0.05x times 4,000. And then 0.05x times negative 80x. So that's 4,000. It's x with negative 80. X, 0.05 times 4,000 is 200. And this is, we know, is x second. 0.05 times negative 80 is negative 4. So your A is negative 4. Then you combine your x's, you take negative 80 plus 120, or plus 200, my bad, that's 120. Then the constant, 4,000. Now we have the opposite of B. I would switch it to negative 120. Remember, don't make your A opposite, it's just negative 4. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Then I take negative 120, divide by negative 8, and I get 15. Then I put 15 into the equation for the x, and that will find my y for me, because y is right here all by itself. I just need to substitute 15 in for my x's. Okay, 4,900. So that's your y value. Now remember what this means in a revenue. This is how many rows of change you have. You'd have to do that 15 times. That's your money. So 4,900. Okay, 15. Missiles launch from a 100-foot platform with a velocity of 600 feet per second. What's the maximum height of the missile? Again, you are finding the vertex point. You will be using opposite of B divided by 2 times A. This problem is not going to take nearly as long. So you got x second, x constant equals y. Now, this is gravity, okay? Gravity is happening. It's pulling it up and down. It's an object. So negative 16. Now the feet per second, that's your x. And then you started at 100 feet, so you put that into your constant. Now you don't replace the y, okay? Don't come down here on the end. So the opposite of b is negative 600. And then 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. So I'm going to take negative 600 divided by negative 32. I get 18.75. Now to find the y, do what I did on the last problem. I substitute the 18.75 that I got in for the x variables, both of them. So negative 16, 18.75, second power, plus 600, 18.75, plus 100, 5,725. So now that we're doing gravity, okay, this is the seconds, this is the feet, that's your answer, 5,725 feet. Okay, then the last problem. A missile is launched from a 100-foot platform with a velocity of 600 feet per second. Calculate the time it will take the missile to hit its ground target. So now you're not finding the vertex anymore. So feet in seconds. I would set this up if I'm not finding the vertex. So that's x, that's y. Feet per second is 600. Again, it goes up, comes down, pulled by the force of gravity. Up, down. So you know you started at 100 feet. And you know you got to find how many seconds it took to get to 0 feet. So map that out. So the gravity's negative 16. And then 600 is your x. 100 goes here, okay? 0 feet, okay? 0 feet needs to go into the equation for one of the variables. It goes in for y, okay? Now the y is history. And now that allows us to solve for the x, but x has 2 answers. It's x second, but there's also an x to the first in there, so you have to apply your factoring properties. Okay, so 0's there, and it's 3 terms, so it'd be GCF, followed by the quadratic formula. Or no, maybe the t-chart, my bad. Jumped ahead of myself. So there's no x, there is a negative. 16, 600, and 100. Well, 100's not there. Here's 16 again, not seeing 100. Okay, here's 16, there's 100. Now, if you're not sure if obviously I can't see 600. Just take your calculator and see if 600 divided by 4 is a decimal. That's how to tell if it would be in that row. Just take the 600 divided by 4. Not a decimal, so these would all be in row 4. But not negative 4x, just negative 4. So that's 4x to the second, negative 150x, negative 25. So you bring over your negative 4, get rid of it, and you do the ABC from here. 4 times negative 25 is negative 100, okay? So that's a mismatch. Now it's not over 100, so I'll try this. I'll try adding to negative 150, but right away it's too narrow because that's negative 99. I'm never going to get more extreme than that, so that's a QF. So opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a. Okay, so the opposite of negative 150 is positive 150, and then B is negative 150, and then 4A is 4, C is negative 25, then A is 4. So you have a 150 in front, on bottom 2 times 4 is 8. Now figure out what you're taking the square root of. $22,900. Don't put that here. You have to find the square root before it can go down there. Okay, 151.33. Okay, so I take 150 plus 151.33, click equals, divided by 8. Okay, 37.67. And you take 150 minus 151.33, divide that by 8, negative 0.17. So obviously I want to take the positive, 37.67.